Hello everyone, it's Ginger here. Welcome to another painting, and this one is very fall inspired or autumn inspired depending on where you are. And can you guess what I'm painting? Maybe not. Well, so that you all know, we are painting pumpkins at the moment, and I've been paint sketching with my gouache quite a lot of pumpkins in prep for doing a number of these. This is 10 inch by 10 inch. This is Fabriano watercolor paper with a coating of gesso, and just gesso, so not the texture paint, just gesso to give it a little bit of grit. And I've given this a coating of blue gouache just to paint on top. Gouache by itself, because of the way how powdery it is, it actually also makes a really great surface for pastels to stick to. So I'm mapping this out with one of my pencils just to kind of make sure that I've got the shape and the composition. And you can see up here, this is the original painting sketch. So I've kind of zoomed in a bit. I wanted the painting to feel a bit more like there's more you can't see, but also kind of bring it in so that it just feels cozy. I quite like that kind of cozy feeling. So yeah, we're just marking out this. This is just one of the Pastel Pit pencils. It's great for working on most of these types of surfaces. I don't really have any issue. I always tend to find working on really sanded paper, marking out with pastel pencils is a bit of a nightmare because it just chews through the pastel so much. So I tend to use normal pencils, should I say. I've got the polychromos that I use for marking out on really heavily sanded paper. But as most of you know and see, I don't really have a lot of sanded paper. At least the heavy sanded paper. I should probably get some more and do some more on it, but I quite like this because I like the texture, and you can see the kind of grainy texture here. And this is the gesso over the top. Now Fabriano's got it's a cold pressed paper, so it's got at least, yeah, it is cold pressed. So it's got a little bit of texture already from the pressing process. And then with the gesso on top, you get more of a grainy kind of texture, and actually that looks really, really pretty when you do things like that. It's really great. So we're layering down our base colors here. So basically we've got this really dark, rich kind of brown tone backgrounds, and then we've got these two, well, one, I'm not actually sure if they're both pumpkins. One looks like more like a pumpkin, and the other one looks more like a gourd or squash, probably a squash, because it's kind of creamy off-white with kind of orange stripes and like a greeny speckledness to it. But it's slightly bigger than the smaller one, which I think is, with its traditional orangey color, is more like a pumpkin. I don't know the difference between them. Is a pumpkin actually a squash? Or is a squash a type of pumpkin? Or are they completely not related but look the same? I have absolutely no idea. Either way, as far as I'm concerned, they are a very autumnal fruit. Are they a fruit? They've got seeds inside, so I'm going to assume yes, they are a fruit. And you know, they are great eating. This is a reference. The original sketch was from a reference image on Unsplash. I just picked some random pumpkin images. I just typed pumpkin search, pulled these out, and then just kind of cropped it to what I wanted for my sketch. And obviously I've cropped it again to create this more square image and more kind of zoomed in cozy image that I really wanted. So hopefully that's what I'm kind of wanting to portray in this one. And you can see that you can see the kind of lines in the pressing of the paper coming through, but you can also see the graininess really nicely. So this is just layering down these base colors. What I plan to do is, oh, my hair. I'm going to blend this down with my fingers. I'm not going to use water or anything. Bear in mind that the under paint that I've put on, the colour paint, is gouache. It's not acrylic gouache, so it will reactivate with water and go everywhere. So not a good idea. Although I've never really done that. What would happen if you did that and it meant that the blue then mixed with the pastel base colours and would tone all of that with a blue tone? Maybe I should have a go at that. Maybe not, maybe not. I think this is just an easy way of working. I just wanted the blue to come through. It's not a very cool blue. It's kind of mid-range, closer to the warm end of blue, and more like cobalt and indigo, kind of up that way. And it's not going to add a coolness to what is going to end up being a very warm painting, because the colours I'm using are very much rust, brown, oranges, creams, all warm hues. So I just wanted something to really complement that. Really good complementary colour to blue is orange. So that works really well. That's why I kind of picked it. I wanted that complementary colour, and I want, I want some of this shining through. And as you will see later, I overwork this painting. And I knew about halfway through that I was going to overwork this painting, and I continued anyway. And the reason I continued was I thought I might be able to pull this back. The problem being is once you get to a certain point where you've got a number of layers down, because I'm not using sanded paper, I'm using just watercolor paper with gesso on. I'm not going to get that many layers, and I kind of went too fast, too far with my base layers, and then when it came to my upper layers, it became really kind of hard work to get that layered down in order to kind of get it going. So yeah, I kind of tripped myself up there. I knew I would, and oh god, I kicked myself for how muddy some of it ends up at the end. But hopefully you guys will see what I mean and see if you can spot in the process where it was I kind of started doing too much and put too many of my base layers down. This colour here is a pure orange from Blue Earth, and it is so vibrant. Like literally it looks like it's fluorescing in your hands. It's unbelievable. This is me coming in here now with our yellow orange tones, so more like kind of pale tangerine. It's got some orange in it, but it is also a yellow, so it's kind of just on the border between the two. But it's a really kind of warm, cozy colour. It's a very huggable colour. I don't think I've ever described a colour as huggable, but it is a kind of huggable colour. So there's some patches of yellow on this cream coloured pumpkin as well I wanted to get in. And yeah, I'm just going to be very careful. This is the lightest sections on the orangey pumpkin. So the light is actually coming from the bottom left, but more halfway up the page. So kind of middle left, kind of pointing, say, in a northeasterly direction. So going diagonally up to the far corner, the top right corner. So that's the kind of direction that the light's going in. So there's no forward or sideways shadow. There is a shadow cast between the smaller pumpkin and the bigger one. And that's because the light is set just a little bit further back from the cream coloured pumpkin. It's set kind of more back and to the side, so it kind of is just clipping both pumpkins. So there's a brighter patch on the paler one, and then just slightly, just a little bit catching the orange pumpkin. I love this. I'm just blending all the colours out now, and this is going to give me my base. And look at the colours. Oh, they're so gorgeous. Honestly, absolutely love that. I could have just kept it like this and just kept adding pastel over the top at this point, but actually I wanted to get a bit more infill. I wanted to fill it a bit more in, really bring the colour down, but also give me a bit more space to work, because obviously without the capability of having loads of layers, if I don't blend down here in my initial coats, then I end up losing my ability for multiple layers later on, and then that actually does become a problem. So ideally, you know, this is where I start with my blending, and then I work over the top of this base coat. So you can kind of see where the shadow line is now between the two pumpkins and where the lighter sections are, which is great. I'm going to blend out this background. And I don't mind if the background's a little bitty, you know, with some of the blue showing through. It won't really make that much of a difference at this point. I'm going to be adding a little bit more to the background just to give it a little bit more texture. I'm going to have very colourful fingers after this, and because it's not really sanded paper and it's just gesso, there's not a lot of wear on the fingertips of this one. This won't hurt. You can do exactly the same method as this on the Ingress pastel papers, so just standard non-sanded pastel papers. This method works just as well. You don't have to give it a coat of gesso. But the nice thing about the gesso is it also stiffens up the paper. I mean, this is a 300 DSM paper, so about £140, and it's quite a thick, stiff paper. When I've put the gesso on, it really does stiffen it even more, and it makes it more like board, and it's really nice to work on when it's a bit stiffer. So definitely, if you're working with things like Ingress paper and you just want a little bit more out of it, definitely giving it a coat of gesso, it will help. This is my favourite kind of rust brick red. It's a gorgeous colour. I absolutely love this one. And you'll see it'll probably come out an awful lot over the next couple of weeks, just because it's one of my favourite go-to colours for autumn. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It's just so warm and yummy. You know, it's not quite Cadbury's Hershey's colour. It's a little bit redder than that. So it's a darker brown colour from a brick colour. I'm not even sure. I don't think there's a colour really, or at least an item I can easily match to it, but it is one of my go-to colours for a warm red brown, and it's just got such a gorgeous colour. It's quite a saturated colour, so it's not dark in tone, but it is dark in saturation. So if I did a grey tone, grey scale of this at the moment, you'll see it would come out quite dark, even though it's lighter than the dark brown, which is the base colour I've already put down. And that's just because of the saturation of the actual colour. So we'll get this bit in. This bit's darker. The light that we can see is kind of keeping that back wall behind these pumpkins a little bit lighter, although I suspect that from the reference photo they look like they probably were roughly the same colour. It's just that one's more lit than the other. So we will blend this in. So this should be nice and dark once we've got this in, and that should really bring out and make the colours really sing before we start adding on our additional layers. Okay, I've shifted the painting a little bit, just turned it a little bit more into the light because it's getting a little bit dark. This is a really great neutral yellow brown, but really pale. But the problem is this one, I don't know why, but it's unbelievably crumbly. And because of that, it just, as soon as I touch the paper, and even with the paper with as little too for this one, it just disintegrates all the time. It's a bit annoying, and can make it really difficult to work with, but it's just such a nice neutral. It's an unusual colour. I'm not really sure where I would really get it into in some of my other landscape paintings because of it. It would probably be good for kind of lighter shadow areas, would be probably really good, especially on things like cloths, like light coloured, cream coloured cloths, if you wanted a bit of shadowing, or kind of just areas that are slightly darker where material is bunched up. This would probably be the really good colour for that. It's just a really great neutral. And we're just popping it into places. There's a little bit of kind of, I'm going to call it beige, really. It really is a beige colour. A little bit of this on the stalk in the middle of this pumpkin. It's quite a fat and chunky stalk on that pumpkin, whereas the other one is almost a dramatic difference. It's this tall, thin, curved thing that almost looks like a handle. I mean, here in Scotland, we'd probably go curling with it. You could just see it sliding down the ice towards the bullseye, just because of the way the stalk comes up and back again. So we're just going to start bringing in a little bit of our darks again. We're just trying to reinforce the shadows here, because I kind of felt like I had them down with this gorgeous darker mauve red colour, which is a little bit cooler and therefore kind of was working really well, but against these really bright colours it was just getting too lost. So I really needed to want that contrast just to make the colours of these pumpkins sing. So nope, I went back and went, no, I need to make this darker. I need to make this contrast more between the lighter and the darker areas. So we are going to go round. There's quite a bit of darkness in the middle of this pumpkin, and I think that's because the stalk is actually set a little bit down. It's almost like the middle in pumpkins always sinks. I don't know if that's just the way it grows. I mean, I've seen some very round pumpkins that are round all the way, and then the stalk comes off that surface, but a lot of these, so maybe these are squashes and that's the difference, these tend to be sunken in the middle, and tend to have a really quite a thick chunky stalk base coming into it, which when you see how they grow, and if you've seen any of the massive ones, it needs that stalk to provide all of that moisture and stuff. So I'm just bringing this round into the shadow between the two pumpkins and just reinforcing that and bringing that out just a little darker. I love colour palettes like these, they're just so pretty. I need to work out which one of my painting sketches I'm doing next for you guys. But trust me, it's all going to be a lot of pumpkins. Plus, I've got another big painting on my easel. Another one of my big textured pieces from Killen. And that will also be coming up shortly, once I'm satisfied with it. At the moment, I'm hating it. I'm going through that hate stage. You kind of make a start, it looks scruffy, and you currently hate it and can't see how you're going to resolve it. And then you get stuck in, and then magically it just resolves itself. I don't know how that happens, but it does. That hasn't happened because I haven't gone back to it yet. It's just sitting on the easel staring at me gloomily. So we'll see. Right, this is where I start overworking it. I've put so much of this brown down, I'm now going to struggle to actually bring that in and make it work with the rest of the painting. So I'm going back in with the orange just to reinforce some of the orange sections, and also down here this is a dark wood table, and it's obviously wax. It's got some sort of gloss or varnish on, and it is picking up reflected light off the pumpkin and giving us little slithers of orange reflecting off the table, and the same with the paler coloured pumpkin as well. And I've put these in and then I blend them out slightly to soften them because they're just too harsh. But honestly, I wish I hadn't done that. I just wish I hadn't put them in at all. I know they're in the original photo and I kind of put them in the sketch, but actually it didn't work for me. Going back in with this bright orange, I love this colour, and sometimes this colour can be a little too much. It kind of competes with everything, or should I say out-competes everything, and that's one thing you don't want, is you don't want a colour that is going to consistently fight with every other colour in your painting. You don't want it to outshine everything unless it's absolutely deliberate. In this case, it's not. It's just that it's a very, very vibrant, very saturated colour in quite a dark painting, and therefore it's going to come across more bold than any other colour I've got down there, and possibly even outshine the white. So we'll see how this goes. We might be able to pull it back if we're really careful. I can also hear my cat trying to destroy the gate behind me. Ava, no. I hope you guys heard that. What? See what I mean? Interrupted. Right, let's get back to this painting and not the cat. So we're just softening these darker lines that I've put in and just going over the top of them slightly to make them kind of disappear, because the pumpkin had really quite strong lines actually coming down, and each line, because of the curve of each segment of the pumpkin, and then it comes down and into that line and then back up and out, and you get these valleys, and obviously in the middle of the valley is slightly shadowed, caused by the rise and fall of each segment. So you end up with these darker lines, but obviously I didn't want to look like I was just cartoon drawing pumpkins. So it's great to put those lines in and then almost take them back out by covering over bits of them, and that just kind of brings them back out and back in again. So just darkening the edges there. It's quite the actual reference photo, they're quite dark, so I really wanted to make sure that I got that in and kind of almost soften their edges to the point where they slightly disappear into the background. I'm not liking this dark triangle at the top. It's absolutely bugging me, but I'll come back to that. You can see how much of the texture of the paper is actually holding on to the pastel dust as it's coming down. All these yellow bits. It was an orange pumpkin, I assure you, but where the light is, it lightens it to really kind of golden yellow. So where there's more yellow is where it ends up a lot lighter. And the same with this pumpkin up here. It's just got these patches of yellow in amongst the cream. It was a very patchy coloured pumpkin. It had lots of different colours and bits all over the place. It just seemed really odd. You can see here, this is a much lighter yellow, and it is struggling to get in over the top of these colours, and that's because I've already put too many layers down with this paper. So it's going to be a struggle now to get any more colours over the top, and I know I've still got my white highlights to bring in yet, so I should know better. Well, I do know better, but I was getting too carried away with my favourite colours. So this is another neutral, so this isn't a white, this is another cream coloured grey white. And there was a lot of that going on this pumpkin. And this is a cream, so this is a really quite a nice bright colour, just highlighting that stalk facing the light, and the same with that one. And again, picking out the sections that are catching the light. And then again, some of that reflected on the table. And this is a green white, so it's white, it's a green tint, but pretty much almost to the white. So I still don't use a pure white in any of this whatsoever. I actually don't have many white pastels, I don't think. I just tend not to use them. Right, let's just soften this. So these are these reflections, and they're just, yeah, two in your face, so just softening them slightly. Okay, that's a bit better. We've now got where we want to go. Just going to lighten this background just a little bit. And just reinforce that shadow. Really want to try and make sure that shadow just comes out. There's just little patches of that here and there. Righty ho, I think we're pretty much there. So let's get this tape off. This is where I spend 10 minutes trying to get the tape off without ripping the paper. There's the first side. There's the second side. Sorry, arm's in the way. You're getting a full, wonderful view of my elbow. Isn't it beautiful? Right, top. Try not to peel up the corners because I want them to hold it down. Don't know why, these always look so much better once the tape's taken off. Come on. Up you come. And come on, and done. We'll forgive that corner. So hopefully you guys have had a bit of a laugh and enjoyed this one. Definitely give it a go yourself and give me a big thumbs up and like below. Ta-ta for now.